What is going on YouTube? This is Acidur. So I'm going to review the debut album by St. Lunatics. Basically, this product is called Free City, and it came out in the late spring of 2001. So this is basically the follow-up to Nelly's hit album Country Grammar from the summer of 2000. Came out less than a year after that particular one, but this is definitely like an excellent 1-2 punch to get an extra taste of what Nelly was up to around the early 2000s as far as those pitches kind of happen. And this one more so than Nellyville. As much as I like Nellyville, and I reviewed that recently as well, I'd have to say Nellyville was a good album. Nellyville was definitely an excellent album. Had 6 singles on there, pitches like that. Definitely a mainstream smash and one of the best selling rap albums ever. But I look after just the concept. This album, definitely, if you're looking for an extra kind of bona fide helping of like country grammar from the year 2000, this is probably the closest thing to that within that fashion. It's just basically like Nelly with his buddies along for the ride. I'd have to say it's just the concept of how that particular pitch kind of goes. It's just a good concept of that, and it's as good as like I mean, there may be some folks that feel like this product doesn't hold up to like Country Grammar or Nellyville, some of those type pitches, just because the mainstream type appeal is not that high. Really, the singles off this product didn't do terribly well. I mean, Batter Up, which was more of a single, that's Batter Up, the fourth single from Country Grammar, is on this particular product and is there to bolster this particular one. That's probably the highest charting song off this product. But Midwest Swang did relatively decent. It hit like the top 90 of the Billboard 100. But then the other singles, Summer in the City and Groovin' Tonight, just didn't do terrifically as well as like the rest of this album was supposed to. It's just kind of a constant. A lot of these were just more buzz singles and pitches like that. Just kind of a Nelly placeholder until he came back next year with Nellyville. Just kind of the pitch behind it. I do feel like this is an excellent album, though. It's just kind of the concept. This doesn't get the herald kind of attention that it probably needs. I mean, I look after it. If you come to this album knowing some of Nelly's largest hits like Country Grammar, Hot Shit, and EI and Ride With Me and some of those type pitches, it may not have something on that particular magnitude. It's not like the number ones, the number threes, the number fives on here, but I would have to say it is like an extra helping to Nelly that this is some excellent type stuff. And he does pack this album with some good hooks. I do feel like the concept Nelly kind of gave better hooks to this particular product more so than he did for Nellyville, which just tried some new things on there. I mean, that's still an excellent album, but it's just a good 1, 2, 3 punch to get all of these Nelly products from like the early 2000s because he really had a dominant run. This is just a good after effect of him dominating yet another summer, just going back to back, going from summer 2000, just having like a diamond selling album that was just a smash that lasted for a good while, basically until this album came out, and then basically I'd say this particular product probably lasted throughout the summer 2001 pitches like that, but it just didn't have like the same widespread type of appeal. This album at least went platinum, but it was just kind of the concept that it's just kind of, it really is just like a stopgap and a placeholder, but I don't feel like it is that in terms of like the quality behind it. This is going to get a relatively close to a classic score. It's just all but on the cusp. Basically, out of 15 songs on here, there's 5 skits, including the intro. I'd have to say, so the concept of it, of the 20 songs on here minus the 5 skits, including the intro, that narrows it down to 15 songs. Despite the fact that one of those 15 songs is Batter Up, which is also on Country Grammar. But out of those 15 songs, I wound up recommending 13. So it's a pretty excellent type pitch to kind of get here. Just what I'd say. I mean, that should tell you the extreme quality of this particular product. And a good thing about this particular product is just the fact that Nelly is on most of these songs. He does, I mean, some folks, when they put on their group, will be on it less, or they just will not have that many songs that they're actually on because they'll try to showcase the group more. This is not like Eminem with D12, at least in the later years. I mean, Eminem was, of course, a big part of Devil's Night from 2001, but he was less on D12 World. But I look after it. Nelly backs this particular St. Lunatics crew, and they're actually pretty good. I look after it. It's not to say actually like I was surprised by that, but it's just kind of the concept. They have some good stuff on here. Murphy Lee and Ali have dropped albums. I'm going to get to those in the future as far as those pitches going to happen. I didn't realize that Ali dropped an album. I knew about the Murphy Lee album, and I do own the Murphy Lee album, but I didn't know about the Ali album. So it's a pretty good concept. Kind of get some of that. Ali actually dropped his album before Murphy Lee did, so it's a pretty good pitch. But so yeah, I'm going to go ahead and talk about the singles here. Basically, the lead single off this product is Midwest Swing. So this is a nice one. It's just kind of a relatively lambent type one considering Nelly's energy around the time. Feels more like a buzz single, this kind of if you know, you know type territory. I feel like it at least was a modest attempt to kind of get it some publicity, but it just didn't. I feel like probably the main reason why this particular song didn't chart heavier is just because of the relatively pedestrian hook on here and maybe like some of the background sound effects on the song. I feel like there's like this kind of foresty type sound on there that kind of feels a little bit like holding it back. I mean, it's trying to be like a more countryside type song as far as those pitches kind of happen, just a sequel to Country Grammar, but it's not so much like it's here and there, but it's just kind of the concept that it might be like a minor snag, I'd have to say, but I look after it's still a good song. I like the concept of this particular one. It's a real nice one. It's like a lazy kind of midsummer countryside bounce of a song. I'd have to say is like a classic kind of early 2000s Nelly. I would definitely feel like, and this is just like some secret frolicking. Definitely, this is definitely like a secret frolicking type song to kind of get if you do appreciate country grammar wholesomely. You know that whole album front to back and some of Nelly's early days. I'd say this is pretty good local bop. So this is just more kind of days in paradise as far as those pitches going to happen. Just appreciating summer, June, July, August, September. Some of those pitches, even May. Some of those type months, just getting towards it and just having the good affability just behind getting crunk. Some of those type moments, just summer smoke edge, getting barbecue, going out and getting heading to like getting like some smokage, some of that type fare, getting like some Burger King or some trying to think of some barbecue places. Can't really, something like Arby's, something like that. Some of those type places where you get some good summertime type food and just nachos and ribs and some of that type stuff. Beers, basically just Southern twang type song. I mean, it really feels basically like a low key kind of Nelly leftover song. It's just the pitch behind it. I mean, Nelly kicks off the song pretty well. It's just a good concept. It just feels like, oh yeah, this is. I didn't realize that Nelly was still pushing like country grammar. Is probably what folks probably thought back in 2001 when this came out. Relative good pitch. Summer in the City. Like I don't know how many folks full blown realize this, but there were some extra kind of singles that were part. I mean, Wikipedia doesn't list these as much nowadays, but Summer in the City and Groovin' Tonight were at least some ones that were relatively approached as singles just within the concept. I don't know if they had music videos, but at least felt like they were attempted kind of buzz singles. If they would have been more popular, they probably would have been promoted within that light. But just kind of the concept that these are at least some ones that had the relative popularity. But Summer in the City is like a breezy kind of hot day pastiming of a song. I had to say this is probably the better song between Midwest Swing and Summer in the City, despite the fact that Midwest Swing just has more of like the radio single snap about it. This is like some relative bustle and simple errands run of a song. I'd have to say about this one, Summer in the City, and it's a good typical hot out type day to kind of get with some of this. There's a good concept for that. It's kind of a factory Nelly hook on here as far as those pitches going to happen. I mean, he was a pretty good machine at pumping out some of these hooks and some of those type pitches back in these early days as far as those particular affairs going to happen with it. Just some good concepts going to get for some of this. There's a lot of this just works great once again for summer. This is just an excellent 1-2 punch. Just going to have some of these just having like a good mix of just like songs. If you don't want every single song from Country Grammar and you want to have some extra songs on there that maybe less folks kind of know about, these would be some good ones just within that fashion because this basically is like the Country Grammar part, more so than like Nellyville kind of was. I feel like Nellyville is kind of its own beast, but these two are just like a within the same fashion, just within the same kind of they're in the same vein as each other. I'd have to say, so it's a good concept. Groovin' Tonight was kind of like the pseudo third single. I might talk about Batter Up. I might talk a little bit about Batter Up, but Groovin' Tonight was like the relative third single. Now, this one has a lot of commercial snap about it. This one probably should have charted better than it did. It has a lot of bravado and attempts at trying to be like a radio staple, but it just didn't succeed in that. This is another one that has City Spud on there. This is another nice Lambent type one and more homely type one that has City Spud on there. So City Spud was at least able to work on this particular product as well before he went to prison for like a decade as far as those pitches kind of happen. It's basically like the kind of more suave type successor to Ride With Me. It's in a similar type fashion, just a little bit more graceful. It's like a suave and elegant kind of night outing of a song. I'd had to say it's like some breezy kind of date night jazz. I would definitely feel like this is just like a good step out jive. I would have to say it's just a fresh song angle to kind of get. This one is just a fresh song angle to kind of get here. I'd have to say so. It's a dope enough concept to kind of get this. It's a real nice. It's a real nice aspect of some commercial spotlighting to kind of get towards that. Just within that, some real nice commercial spotlighting to kind of get towards this. Just real like the angle of this particular song as far as that pitch kind of happens. Just like Ride With Me was kind of a fresh angle from Country Grammar, just a nice pitch compared to like some of those summer haze type ones and more lazy date type. This is one that just really feels like a jazzy kind of date night, just something in a more tuxedo type pitch, a little bit more elegance about it. I had to say it's just a good concept. Just too bad that some of these songs didn't chart better. That's just kind of the thing about it. I feel like it definitely had the commercial pizzazz about it. I would have to say that's the thing about Groovin' Tonight is just the pitch that I don't know if it was just overly kind of I don't want to say it's hammy, but it's a very emphatic song. I'd have to say it's within the neighboring community almost of being hammy, but it's just a good, nice one to kind of have for just like some emphasis and emphaticness as far as that particular kind of goes. But I feel like all three of the singles off this particular product do have like their relative appeal about them. It's just kind of the fact that it's just kind of off to the wayside and just didn't. And Nelly is on all three of these songs. He's on Groovin' Tonight, he's on Summer in the City, and he's on Midwest Swing. It's just kind of the concept that I don't know if folks just at the time just didn't realize as much full blown about it in particular, but it was just kind of concept that was just kind of passed over and just not really given like the modest kind of or the relative kind of acclaim that it needed. I look after some good stuff. But then, yeah, Batter Up was the other single that was kind of like a conduit single going from Country Grammar to this particular product. Just once again, like a good sports game and like a summertime type fair. Really good pitch for that. Has a real nice hook on there. Just some good concepts going to get for that in particular. Just real nice successive type one. There's not really too many sports game songs on here like the baseball type fair and just more pastime and just like late. I mean, there's plenty of lazy summer days on here, but in terms of like the more, I want to say that there was at least another song similar to Batter Up off Country Grammar, so it doesn't have that relative type appeal that just go into football or baseball games, some of those type pitches in like June and August, some of that type fair. But I would have to say it is a pretty nice concept kind of get this one on here, despite the fact that it's on Country Grammar. I mean, I'm not going to knock the score, but it's just kind of concept. It's just, you know, it's a good situation, but yeah, it's just a good situation. So. So yeah, the only two songs I don't recommend on here would just be Scandalous and Love You So. So talk about those. Basically, Scandalous is pretty similar to like This Is the Life and some of those type ones. I just feel like it just didn't have the same kind of just didn't have the same appeal within that sense. I mean, it's too bad because this is a Murphy Lee solo song. I would have thought it would have fared probably a little bit, a few notches better than it particularly kind of did. I mean, it just didn't really jump as much full blown out the page. Just kind of felt more of like a song that just didn't really have enough pizzazz or bite towards it to really kind of have the acclaim behind it, but just didn't see as much acclaim about it. And then Love You So is just another one that just didn't have like the full blown appeal. I like the sample on this particular one. I want to say I've heard that particular hook before. I don't know where it's full blown from, but I would have to say did like the relative concept of getting towards that in the sample, but it's just the production for the rest of this song and just the appeal. I mean, Nelly couldn't have been on every single song, but this is kind of the concept that just the amalgamation of this particular one, the more starry and dismantled production just didn't really fit that song as well as it needed to. It's just kind of a clumsy type one. This kind of feels more like an awkward type one that just didn't really have the synchronization towards it. But yeah, there's a lot of good bops on here. Like a real nice immediate type one I would have to say to go for would be Let Me In Now. This has a pretty lively vintage Nelly Country Grammar energy about this one in particular. Definitely a nice hook that feels like it was a leftover from Country Grammar. Just feels like a song that some folks, if you played this particular song, they might have thought that was probably from Nelly's Country Grammar from 2000s. It's very similar to that, has that same sort of pace. Nelly just has that particular energy, just frenetic like he was on Country Grammar. Or like in my Nellyville review, I said that Nelly kind of calmed down a bit on Nellyville. He wasn't quite as crazy as he was on Country Grammar, just with the exception of the song Hot in Here and maybe like one other one. But this is Nelly on some of his frenetic type energy, just a real lively type one. This is like a stellar kind of house party kickoff fun of a song to kind of get here. And this does have a nice hook, like I was saying. Definitely one of the better songs and immediate ones to go for out this particular product. I feel like Midwest Swing is a nice one for that. Summer in the City is a nice one for that. Let Me In Now is the nice one for that. I'd probably say like Real Niggas is probably a nice one for that. Some of those ones. But there are a handful of songs that Nelly is not on here, so it's just kind of constant, like I was saying. But STL is a pretty nice one. It's like a frenetic kind of summer evening energy. Get things laced up, situate for like a crazier night that's getting ready to happen as far as those pitches going to happen. This is just a finished task. This is just a finished tasks up kind of cut, I'd have to say. Good concept here to kind of get this. Just appreciate the pacing in this particular one. This has a little bit of drive towards it, just the concept of just getting towards it, just last minute work shifts and pitches like that, just relatively commercial, but also recreational, just in the sense of kind of fusing that, just being able to say, good concept for the early 2000s as far as those pitches kind of having this real nice one kind of have for some of that summer twang, but just within the concept of this, okay, work just ended, got to get towards getting crunk a little bit, figure out what I'm going to do for the night, some of those type fares, get the last minute bills paid, some of that type pitch. Boom D Boom is a pretty nice one. Now this is just an Ali solo song. I like the concept of this particular, and Ali does a great job with this one. But this is one it's only one STL member on here. So it's like a good pairing with OK. I'd have to say the song OK, and this like a bit more jivey and mid-paced kind of house party commotion. I'd say about this one. This is just like a good Kickstarter gem. So it's just a good concept kind of get towards some of these as far as those pitches kind of happen. A lot, like I've been saying, a lot of this just feels like adaptations and just continuations of like the Country Grammar album from 2000. It's just some of these don't have Nelly on there, but they still managed to hold up despite all that, I'd have to say. So it's just kind of like country, if you want, yeah, just wanting more Country Grammar just within the pitch, but this does have Ollie on there, which is a good pitch for that. But this is just kind of more Country Grammar type stuff just without Nelly on the particular song, so it's a good enough concept. But another one similar to Boom De Boom, like I was saying, is OK. It's like a twangy kind of country rap glaze of a song, I'd have to say. Good in-between day, kind of lackadaisical and basic kind of summer commerce, I'd have to say. And it's a pretty good one to smoke one to, I'd have to say. So this one does kind of have some homies fare about it. I suppose it's kind of a concept of maybe just walking to like a local KFC, some pitches like that, some of those type fairs, walking to Taco Bell, Arby's, some of those type places, just in particular as far as that kind of happens, getting some gas station type pickups as far as that particular kind of goes, getting some donuts and frozen burritos, some of that type of stuff. This would have to say is basic kind of summer twang as far as that particular pitch kind of happens with it. It's residential type fare, just works pretty well. Here We Come's pretty nice one. This is a Nelly solo song, but this has a different pitch. This kind of feels like a country grammar leftover, like plenty of songs on here, but this is just different pitch for Nelly. This is like a basic and kind of vanilla. It's like a basic and vanilla kind of Nelly solo of a song. I had to say this feels like a country grammar leftover, like I was saying. It's like a motivated kind of brunch commute. I'd have to say, and a good song to get to it. So the concept about this is a little bit more driven. This feels like a more kind of Nelly on like some Rocky type vibes, Rocky the movie, as far as those pitches kind of happen. It's being able to say this and get up and go, pretty much like similar to like the particular song. Like there's a song he did off of Sweat that has like this orchestra band on there. I forget what that song's particularly kind of called. I might put it in like the connotation, but it's a relatively similar song to that. So Nelly's a little bit more driven, just the concept of getting towards it and just kind of, I mean, a lot of this album has a lot more lazy kind of summer day pitches like that, just standard hot June day, heat wave kind of day, just smoking hella sweets and like the summer, some pitches like that, just lemonade sipping, barbecue grill, and some of that type of stuff. But it's this kind of concept. This is one that has a little bit. This definitely feels like brunch coming. I was almost thinking it would be evening, but I don't know how much full bound that kind of makes sense. It just feels like the beginning of the day where you've got stuff to do, just kind of getting towards it. Like this is kind of one that, I mean, a lot of this project kind of feels like after the tasks are done. This is one where it's kind of like you gotta get towards it and figure, get on the grind towards it and complete the day more so than actually having it done. So it's just kind of a concept for some of that. But another one that's pretty similar to OK and Boom De Boom is Show them what they won. This has Nelly on there. This has the full group on there. It's like a Liddy kind of evening bounce of a song, and I'd say pretty similar to Boom De Boom, like I was saying. Pretty good pitch for some of those type ones. It's like a modest kind of early 2000s club noise, I would feel like, and this song knocks pretty well. So this is definitely a pretty good club jam. Is what I'd say. I don't know how many full blown. This project is a lot more residential bound and just more summer backyard type fare, more so than actual nightclub noise. I'd have to say. I'd say maybe in like minor senses, I would say Midwest swing can kind of be played that way, but that just feels like a lot more backyard smoke edge. Grooving tonight's more date night type fare. I'd probably say Summer in the Cities is more summer breeze, cruise out type tones. I would have to say probably apart from like possibly Let Me In Now, I'd say maybe one of the few other club songs on here that this is like for an actual nightclub somewhere similar where you'd hear EI and some of those type pitches, and possibly Country Grammar Hot Shit would just be Show them what they won. So I'd have to say that's kind of the concept about it. But This Is the Life is a nice one, as well as like a sleepy and droopy kind of summer basking. I'd say definite paid in the shade, smoke a few with the homies type tune to kind of get here. And this is just another nice one for like a lazy day. So this one just has some summer sparkle about it. Just a good concept. Just like, I mean, a lot of this project, like I said, boom deep. Like a lot of this project, like I've been saying, has a lot of that kind of summer laziness just about it. This Is the Life. Show them what they won, Boom De Boom, OK, Summer in the City, Midwest Swing. A lot of these are just a continuation of just like the aspects of this summer heat, is that kind of just sunglasses, shades type music, just pitches like that, just smoking hella sweets, wife beater type music, some of that type fare, just backyard kind of pool party typeness, just to kind of get this standard fare. It's just basic. This particular stage just really has that highlighted type of feel, but it is quality. I mean, I just look at it, but I would definitely have to say about it, the concept about it. Some of this kind of blurs the lines just between like this relative, just kind of pedestrian. It's not pedestrian in terms of quality, but just the concept that if you're looking for like the bite of like some Nelly standouts like Country Grammar, Hot Chet, and EI, and Ride with Me, and Batter Up, some of those type ones, I feel like probably the closest ones to some ones that just feel like highlights and career highlights for Saint Lunatics, some of those type pitches, and just the standard relative like nice job for Nelly would have to be like songs like Let Me In Now and Summer in the City are probably the two most immediate ones that just have that sort of pizzazz. And I'd probably say in terms of like nightclub bounce, that would probably be showing what they won. But a lot of this is just lazy, kind of continues summer days. It is more smoking with your pals, I'd have to say. But Midwest Swing has some relative bounce about it. That one's just kind of like an in between. I really feel like that just feels more of like a Nelly buzz single more so than the actual lead single. Just kind of feels like an extra kind of song from Nelly. Like if you really like Nelly, this would be a secondary song to play to kind of say, oh, well, do you know about this song? But I look after it This is kind of the concept. I feel like the actual standouts of this product in terms of like 10 out of 10 songs. In some senses, I would almost say that Groovin' Tonight is like a really excellent date night type song to get. I really like the overall suave and elegant type feel of that one. But in terms of like house party type noise and nightclub type noise, it'd probably be Summer in the City and Let Me In Now. Those are like the two most ferocious ones. And then probably on top of that, I'd say Show 'em What They Want's like a good follow up within that relative sense. But yeah, it's just kind of concept. But there are some gems on here. It's just kind of here and there. But this is going to get a relatively close to classic score. Jangalang's a pretty nice one as well. It's like a glaring and kind of loose, smoke a few out and about in the city type era. I'd have to say pretty nice one for that relative concept. It's like a local hit, also some evening. It's like a local hit also. I'd have to say not just in the city, but also some residential type bound type stuff just within a summer relative within a summer evening pitch like that. Just some good evening commerce, good concept. Yeah, just another nice one to kind of get for like Nelly is not particularly on Jangalang apart from like the chorus, but still a good concept that the rest of the crew, in addition to a chick named Penelope that does this particular song pretty well, I'd have to say. Real Niggas is a pretty nice one as well. It's like a vintage kind of Nelly Country Grammar type hook. I'd have to say about this, pretty similar to like Let Me In Now, some of those type pitches. It's like a basic kind of night turn up, I'd have to say, residential jig and assembly about this particular one, I'd have to suppose. Yeah, Real Niggas comes off as more of like house party bound and pitches like that, the standard shindig, some of that type fair, just evening jiving pitches like that. I'd have to say it's a good concept for some of that relative pitch, just some night type commerce, some of that type fair, nice relative, just assembly and pitches like that, just some turnout as far as that particularly kind of happened with it. Basically, just smoke powwow, some of that type fair, just PlayStation on some of those type pitches, just the standard fare, just like I mean, maybe not like a full blown kind of craze like red cups everywhere type pitch where you're like standard noise and like this bass you're gonna hear from several blocks away. I would have to say, but it's just a relative concept for like a relative kind of solid shindig to kind of have for some of that type of fare. Just a nice one. It's a nice, pretty good, nice kind of modest house party type of feel. I'd have to say about that one. But so that's the jazz about this particular product, I'd say. So yeah, me recommending 13 out of 15 songs in here. I'm gonna give this album like a 9.5 out of 10. It's pretty much full blown on the cusp of getting like a classic score. I just would have to say, if Batter Up had been a song that was exclusive to this project, I probably would give this product like a 10 out of 10. It's just that good. It's really, once again, like a second helping, and Country Grammar has that same sort of flavor as that particular product does, just minus like the megaton, just singles that were caused that album to go 10 times platinum and pitches like that, I'd have to say. But it is basically like a continued follow up. The St. Lunatics crew, for the most part, have that particular energy that just has a lot of appeal, and they manage to do it most of the time in terms of the aspects behind it. I like the fact that Nelly was on this project enough to help back this project further, and he does what he needs to as far as packing this project with some good hooks. I mean, that's kind of the concept. It's just Nelly's kind of commercial type energy. Songs like Let Me In Now, Real Niggas have some of that appeal. Summer in the City, Midwest Swing, some of these type pitches. There's just some commercial pizzazz on here that just is more the affability that folks just kind of chose to moreover ignore this project more so than the full-blown aspect behind it. I think maybe they just thought it was more of the same or something like that, but it basically, that's not a bad thing whatsoever, this project being more of the same. I just look after it. It just really has like some excellent type fare on here, even if like the song quality of some of these might seem pedestrian in terms of like just the overall like commercial kind of appeal behind it, and just the pizzazz as to how it would get more casual type of appeal. I feel like there are some songs there, like once again, some of these casual hits would be Let Me In Now, Show 'em What They Want, in some senses Real Niggas, Groovin' Tonight's definitely a good date night type song. Summer in the City and Midwest Swing are some real two casual and commercial type singles kind of get on here. So that's at least half the project that has some relative commercial pizzazz. And Nelly's a pretty household name, so he tries to make these folks jump off the page and succeeds for the most part. So social score, I'm going to give basically like a 9.5 out of 10. Also, I'd give it a 10 out of 10, but it's just kind of the concept. It just didn't have the megaton hit. I feel like Midwest Swing and the rest of the singles kind of underperformed. These are definitely some nice ones just within the appeal behind it. Look after the overall pizzazz of this particular product. Just really had some appeal. It's just kind of the concept. This project didn't really get much of a chance, I'd say, but definitely deserves it. Just what I'd say, this is once again just some summer type energy, just hot summer day, heat wave type day, just some of that standard fare, just hella smokage and barbecue, some of those type pitches. Get some ladies dancing within a relative house party type sense. More localized, more so the nightclub bound, but would have to say that either way, a lot of these songs just slap pretty hard and just have a lot of good knock. Just good concept for like some shindigs and powwows as far as those pitches gonna happen. So in terms of the future, like St. Lunatics, this is their only album. Like originally they were gonna put out an album in 2009 once City Spud got out of prison, but it just never happened. And then that's basically how that particularly kind of went. Nelly kind of dried up after about the early 2010s as far as those pitches kind of happened. I mean, he has at least put out a series of more products and mixtapes as far as that pitch kind of happens, but for the most part, St. Lunatics are just not. I mean, tides have shifted. It's been 20 years since this particular product, over 20 years. So it's just kind of the concept. I would have to say, yeah, I'm going to get to some more Nelly. That Al Lee album looks very interesting, as does the Murphy Lee project. So I'm going to have to get to some of these. We'll just have to get to some more of them. But this is definitely pretty much a classic, I would have to say. This is another real classic one, especially an underappreciated classic, just being able to say just because the concept, I think, just the fact that it went platinum, but for the most part, it just is not commonplace that this is really, it gets the merits and the fruits of its labor as far as the effort that it put in. So I would have to say it's basically, should be considered a classic for the most part.